Sam,
Yes,
the
sir.
legend. How are you? Thank you so much for having us.
Great to see you.
Oh my
Thanks
gosh,
for
that's
coming
great.
by.
So tell me a little bit about Tank.
Well, you know, these are three males that I have here. This is Tank, this is Oliver, and this is Cecil. So these are three animals that I've raised from hatchlings.
Wow, how old?
Well, he's 35, 34, and he's like 33.
Oh my gosh, wow, they're giant.
Yeah, they're giant. It's just amazing to come out and see them. It's so special every day. You know,
Yeah.
it never gets old. You have a relationship with these animals.
Yeah.
You know, you talk their language. They don't have an animated face, but to me, when I look in there, I feel it's like a sixth sense. Because,
I agree with you.
You know, you can tell by the way they move their head, the way they move their eyes, what they're looking at. There's a lot of quiet times when you have to be able to see what's in their eyes.
Yeah,
You know?
I feel the same way. You know, we have like a 16-year-old Aldabra,
Right.
and she's like 135, 140 pounds, and same thing. I mean, you can see that emotion. You can see when she's happy, when she wants attention. You can see, and I mean, they're majestic. I mean, they are living dinosaurs. It's amazing.
Yeah, they are dinosaurs. 200 million years old.
200 million years old.
That style, what we call tortoise today, that style is 200 million years old. Wow. So what we mean by the modern tortoise here is that, you know, they have the ability to pull their head all the way inside their shell. They can close their legs in front of them. Their body is complete. It has a plastron, it has a top, the tail gets pulled in. They have a beak, they don't have teeth.
Right.
We go back 240 million years, you know, we see the development of the tortoise. Some had a long tail with a club on the end, and so we don't really call those tortoises, but 200 million years. And what I'm always psyched about is, you think about it, I think it was 66 million years ago we had the mass extinction.
Yeah.
75% of the dinosaurs get wiped out. Those guys are survivors of that extinction.
Yeah.
They're dinosaurs.
They are.
You know, I mean, people don't want to say, well, their dinosaurs are extinct. The definition of dinosaur is extinct, but they're dinosaurs.
Exactly.
You know, by any means. We're discussing, you know, how we're going to tell the difference between Aldabra and Galaps. And so a lot of people look at the shell, don't look at the shell. It's all in the head. For Aldabras, you see they're round. Between their eyes, they're round.
Right.
And their nose comes to a point.
Right.
Comes to a point because this animal drinks water from the little crevices on the island.
Right.
And they drink through their nose. They drink
through their nose.
Through their nose. And they drink. So they drink water through their nose as like a straw. Let's go check out the Galap now.
I'm having the best of time. We're just hearing the knowledge.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about how to tell the difference between Aldabra and Galapagos. This is Galapagos. This is Adolf, and he's actually 104 years old. Now I've had him about 35 years. And, you know, he hasn't changed much since the day that I first received him. But, again, looking at Galapagos, look at his head, in between his eyes. We were talking, look how flat he is in between his eyes, the top of his head, and how blunt his nose is. I knew you wouldn't like that. So I've had him about 35 years. I tell the story, you know, I got him when I was a young man. I'm an old man now, he hasn't changed a bit. He's still jumping to girls. He's still most active tortoise. He's still walking around. Right now, you know, he's checking us out. You see the way he's looking, talking about that sense that you get, you know, when you communicate. Look at his eyes, how big his eyes are, you know? He's checking you out.
What's the longevity? Wasn't it?
Over 200 years.
Over
you know, there's a
200
big debate between over 200 years. They have some specimens that they know are even older, but, you know, our documentation doesn't go back it's not very reliable going back so many years.
Yeah. So is this it's the longest living land animal?
Longest living land animal, because we have some whales and everything that live.
Yeah, Greenland whale, and Greenland
500
sharks,
years or something.
Yeah, Greenland sharks,
Yeah,
500.
longest lived land animal.
How much does he weigh, do you think?
565.
565?
Yeah, 565 pounds. I love their back feet. Check their back feet out. It's so elephant-like.
Yeah, elephant.
Aren't they? They're just elephantosis, you know, is a scientific name. So,
exactly.
You know, you wonder where it comes from. They're elephant-like.
Yeah.
It's an elephant with a shell, you know.
Doesn't feel real, man. It really doesn't feel. It feels animatronic or something.
Yeah.
Oh, you are a handsome one, huh?
Well, let's give him a little something to eat here.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
There you go. That'll make a great shot. Look, he's on 3 legs to reach up higher. So,
Oh my God.
not only do you see that, you know, he wants to get to that higher vegetation, so he'll tilt up a little bit on 3 legs. A specific subspecies of Galapagos tortoise, this is called a vincina. And when you look at the vincina, look how his front lip here of his shell really tilts up.
Right.
That allows him to reach that higher food that you see, you know, on those islands. That's what his shell design was actually meant to do. Yeah, and I'll show you some of the other species where we don't see that type of shell configuration.
How many species of the Galaps are there? Subspecies?
You know what? We got to talk about how many. Well, actually, they're actually species. So
They're complete species.
Yeah.
And I know they recently found one that they thought was extinct, right?
yeah, that one from Big George. So I think there's 9 currently living. When he picks his head up high, his neck still don't touch.
Yeah, right, because he's got that space
It
between
still
you.
doesn't touch, right? So he's not restricted in that manner.
This is heaven.
Look at the way he uses that leg to break that food up on the side of his mouth and everything. It's amazing the strength. I've seen them actually pull people off their feet.
Oh my
Using
gosh,
like
yeah.
a watermelon or a pumpkin or something. Check out the growth lines. Look, he's still growing.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, watch out, he'll ram you. Yeah.
And so sexual maturity on these guys, what,
About
mid-20s?
26. Recently, I've just acquired 10 females.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I went through a little process. I had some females and I sold them to get some different females. You know, I'm getting real close. It's
Oh
gonna
my
happen.
God, it's
you know?
amazing.
Yeah.
That's going to be such an experience, right?
Yeah,
I mean, keeping these for 35, 40
Yeah,
years and then be
yeah.
able to see, oh,
Just being able to have one of these tortoises
is a special
raised
thing.
from a hatchling and have him out in the backyard. I come out here, I sit, I drink my coffee.
Yeah.
Every day I look at it and I know it's special. Real quick, look at the difference.
Yeah, the shells are
See,
totally different.
She's just sticking her head out a little bit and she's almost touching.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing, look, he's actually touching right now.
Yeah, and it's not
This is
nearly
Bernie.
the size.
He's 35 years old and I've raised him from a hatchling
Really?
as well. As along with some of the other females
Right.
over here. He comes from a different island and you see he eats more from the ground.
Okay.
And he didn't develop that.
Yeah, for the trees, eating from the
That's right.
trees. Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
He didn't develop that.
Here he comes. It's like, wait a second, what's going on over there?
Uh-oh.
What's happening over there?
Look at the size difference between the females and the males.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't
Right?
it?
300 pounds, maybe. 300, 260, 280. The little female over there is 170 pounds. He's 570 pounds.
570 pounds.
When you look around a lot, you know, a lot of these animals came into the country too young to breed. Or the people that have an animal that's ready to breed, they don't want to sell it cheap.
Yeah, right.
You know, they put all that into it. Somebody who has raised an animal like that wants a lot of money for an animal like that.
It's interesting that this female here has such a round shell.
Yeah, she's a hybrid between these two.
Oh, so that's why they're
Right.
like that.
Those little serrations there along the beak, and they have such a powerful grip,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And they're so sharp that they could easily whack a finger off, you know. Especially if they get afraid and they pull in their shell.
Right.
No, you got to be careful. You got to be aware of what you're doing. It's easier actually. A lot of people try to feed them that last little bit, and they try to feed it from here. But actually, you know, you're much better
the
off doing it
side.
from the
Oh,
side
that's a-
because they're going forward.
Oh, that's good
you know?
advice. That's
Yeah.
really good advice.
So another resident we have on the farm, this is Elizabeth. She's 103 years old.
103.
Yeah, she's 103 years old. She still lays eggs. He came into the country actually before CITES, some 60 years ago. Some people from America were down visiting Ecuador, and they went into the meat market. And there she is hanging in the meat market. A little bit smaller, but she's hanging in the meat market, and she's there for slaughter, she's there for food. Well, they take her, they bring her home. She's passed from one owner to another, and you know, it's finally here with me, and we're happy to have her. That's Elizabeth, 103 years old, and she was slated for death, you know, in the meat market in Ecuador. Wow.
What an amazing
Yeah,
story.
it's just crazy.
I'm so happy
Such
you
a-
made it, girl.
Such a sweet animal she is too, huh?
Such a good girl.
All the way. So what happens is if you reach under here like this is because he has that big cavity. And it's that big cavity that allows them to mount the females. If you want a breeder, you've got to get the cavity. Otherwise, they can't hold the female down.
yeah.
So that cavity helps them hold that female down. So just take a feel underneath it. You'd be surprised at the depth of that cavity. And what you're really looking at there,
Oh, yeah.
right? What you're really looking at there is this bridge scute that's right here. So you can see what kind of a breeder you may gonna have just by looking at that bridge.
And what age do they start to grow that?
Probably about 15 years old,
Okay.
you start to see it. You know, we have some others we'll look at, and maybe we'll take a look. What's going on, Adolf, huh? You're gonna get all that slime out of your eyes when you get your face all nicely washed up. They have that natural, you notice that foaming in their eyes. If you were looking at another tortoise, you'd be thinking it had a respiratory infection of some kind. Not Galapagos. Galapagos naturally produce that slimy bubbling in their eyes, and it's a protection against sand and dirt and mosquitoes and stuff like that. So when you see that foaming in the Galapagos eyes, it's totally normal. These animals are herbivores, they're grassland tortoises, they eat things off the ground, plants and stuff like that. But you know what else they eat? Birds. See them standing up? The birds get used to them, they come pecking around, they stand perfectly still, then when the time is right, they come down and they squash them and they back up and they eat them. Where did the tortoise come from? Where was this along the archaeological line? The tortoise is actually a lizard. that has metamorphosized over time into the tortoise we know today. It was a digging animal. It was a lizard, and he would dig holes. As he dug those holes, he wanted to get deeper, so he started to get wide. And if you look at the prehistoric history, is like a lizard, has a little bit shorter tail, he's got a little bit shorter head, he's got legs in the front, they're changed a little bit, and his body is getting wider. And then the next evolutionary state is they start to spread, their ribs flattened out, and they start to spread flat, and they start to fuse together. And that's what starts to make the shell. That gets covered over with keratin, which is the same thing. That's what the shell is made of, which is the same thing that you see in your fingernails and the rhino horns and stuff like that. I think I was about 8 years old. My parents, we lived up in Long Island, New York. That's where the accent comes from. They took me to some zoo. I don't even remember what it was. And there was a giant tortoise out front. To this day, I don't know if it was real or it was a statue. It probably was a statue. But I became infatuated with them at that point. So all going through childhood and everything, I think, someday I've got to get these animals. Someday I've always got to get these animals. So, you're young, what resources do you really have? But I remember telling my friends in school, you go through junior high and high school, you can't get those. They cost a fortune. They're very expensive. I just got to figure out a way to make a lot of money. And then people tell me, no, you can't get them because only zoos can have them. Guess I got to get a zoo, So it's been an inspiration my whole life.
Tell you what, I've seen a lot of redfoot and yellowfoot tortoises, but nothing like this. Look at the size of this one. But the truth is, it's a little bit of a special yellowfoot tortoise.
Amazon yellowfoot tortoise. This is an Amazon basin yellowfoot tortoise. And they're different than other yellowfoots because they come from different locations, they grow to different sizes. This particular animal is Gladys, and she came here from South America when she was 25, and that was 35 years ago. Much bigger than we see other yellowfoot tortoises.
Yeah, like 3 times the size.
Yeah, and weighs about 80 pounds too. This is Humphrey. I've raised him from a hatchling, and he's 32 years old. Yeah, they can live quite long. I've had him into the 60s.
Into the 60s?
Yeah,
Wow.
into the 60s, Cyclura. So what's up, Humphrey, huh? What do you say? Look check him out. Right, that nice little black
gosh,
with
he's
the
so
red belly.
beautiful.
You remember the Twin Towers?
Of course, in Orlando.
That's where I used to have him sitting there.
Sitting there at the
right
Twin
on
Towers.
the table.
Oh
so
my
many
gosh.
people remember me from him sitting there on the table. That's the same.
I'm sure that I remember it because I'm sure that
I had the Lewis eyes sitting out there, and just about as old as my daughter. So I have a lot of older pictures when she's a baby
she's
and young,
little,
and we're sitting there, and he's the same iguana. So every so often, I update that picture and everything.
That's so cool.
What do you say, buddy? Huh? You need some loving, huh?
Look at this guy. Look at that little beastie.
Huh? What? He's like 30 years old too.
30-year-old boy?
Yeah.
Look at the horn on that little
horns,
guy.
huh?
Woo. That's
Right.
beautiful.
Now, this is the black dragon, and from Saba Island, Iguana. These guys are about 2 years old now, so they're not mature. They start off green. They look totally green, and then the colors start coming through. And right now they get that pink lip, they get that white head and everything. So it's really, really neat. And what's interesting is that this particular species is not controlled by Florida. Iguana. It's not covered by that law.
It's still, the genus is still Iguana?
No, actually they've changed it now, so it's Malasterna. Yeah.
That's why it's not covered under
Right.
Florida.
There's baby Aldabra hatchlings.
Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me right now?
No,
Oh my gosh. Look at these.
I thought I had a couple left.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you do have a couple
Is that
left. Now, did you sell these then? Or is
Yeah,
it, oh, really?
They grow between 5 and 10 grams a day.
5 and 10 grams a day.
That's why I say you should weigh your tortoises to know their health.
Right.
They never go backwards, so you always see that. They're going to start losing weight long before you recognize they're sick. So it really gives you a chance to jump ahead of everything and see, hey, my tortoise is not doing well, and then start checking things out.
So it's been great spending time out with Sam and Adolf and all the amazing animals here. I hope that you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. What a wealth of knowledge, and I've learned so much on this adventure already. It's going to be amazing, but we still have a bunch of places we're going to be going. It's going to be great. If you enjoyed this adventure so far, here's a playlist of a bunch of travel stuff that we've done over on this side. Do me a favor, hit that subscription button. Have an absolutely wonderful day, Reptile Army. Remember, be kind to someone, and I promise we'll see you tomorrow.